morning again. Another episode of Old Men in Chairs. I missed today. It's a very busy time of year. For those who don't know, I have a number of businesses, including a farm. And I had to catch up on some of that. But, as I mentioned before, I have a lot of songs that I also need to catch up on. And the one that is at the top of my list right now is the new song by Samson called What About Us. It's been out for a couple weeks. It has a couple 100,000 views. And Samson's been missing in action for about 6 months. And a lot of people were worried about him. You know, he had a number of great songs. We've done 3 or 4 of them. And then he went silent. And there was a rumor that perhaps he was working on a record deal, but there's no evidence that that has happened. He still seems to be independent. He's one of our most popular artists on the channel. I guess he's in 4th place. We had a breakout hit with our Kid Rock reaction, which was kind of a fluke. And of course, Tom McDonald is the main reason that we started the channel in the first place. And we have a lot of loyal fans among the Hangover gang. Chris Webby is doing very well, especially his song Raw Thoughts 5, which we named as 2021 Song of the Year. That's doing very well. And right behind that is Sampson. He has over 1,000 views on his Quick Word, which is the story of Dr. Fauci. A great song. So he's a young fellow. He's raw. He's still developing his talent. But I feel compelled to promote his work because I think he does need a wider audience. And anything I can do to help, I want to do. By the way, you see I'm wearing the Charity Response Team t-shirt. I've had this t-shirt for at least 10 years. I actually purchased it from Alex Jones' Prison Planet back during the Obama years. And I wore it around during that time, which I thought was the beginning of the tyranny. And the funny thing was that when Trump got elected, if I wore it out in public, people took it that I was anti-Trump, which I was not. But in their minds, Trump was a tyrant. And of course, now that Biden is our so-called president, I think people can get the message again more accurately. If anyone knows what song that was that he started the video with, please let me know. I actually used Shazam to try to identify it, and all they told me was that it was Samson. So that was no help. Sounds like soul music, but I don't recognize the song or the singer.
Don't tread on me. Those are words that I stand by, homie. It doesn't mean I'm gangster, it doesn't mean I'm country. It means that my life is in my hands only. I don't have money for security, I don't have armed guards that I keep snug around me. You don't think I deserve protection like you do, and that means you don't give a fuck about me. Gated community, that's what you live in. Hatred and mutiny, that's what we live in. So come down here and hang with us for a minute. See if you leave with the same fucking opinion. Who's gonna help me out if I get robbed? What if somebody were to beat up my mother? Who's gonna be there to save our lives? You? Nah, me, motherfucker.
Like they say, when you need help in seconds, the police are only minutes away. So he's making that point. If he needs help, he's going to rely on his own weaponry. He's not going to wait for the police to come, and it may be too late if he does.
Only one that's got my back. It's dog eat dog, these are not no cats. There's cops in Michigan that can't even respond to the calls cause the cars ain't got no gas. Great! Police don't have any fuel, you don't know if they'll arrive when you call them. the babies are starving. My girlfriend can't find a tampon, and yet somehow you and I are the problem. I've never bought a gun without having my background scanned and approved. The only loophole I've seen on a gun is the one that you put a fucking lanyard through. It's not true that you can go to the store and just swipe your card and get a Glock and run. It's funny, the people that say that shit have literally never even shot one.
Yeah, there's a lot of misinformation about guns for sure. There's a lot of propaganda out there. They want to get rid of guns in private hands. Good luck with that. The Supreme Court has been very clear that there is a right to bear arms, and the recent case decided against the New York State law was very clear, although immediately the state of New York turned around and passed another law, which was even worse than the one that the court struck down. And so the court will have to do that again, but they don't give up, do they?
Hey, Matthew McConaughey. Shut the fuck up. Just cause you murder people on screen doesn't mean you know shit about guns, you dumb fuck. What, you worried about us? What about all of those violent movies that you played? How about you go talk to Alec Baldwin before you start telling me what to do, okay? Uvalde? I was horrified by it. That's your hometown, you were born right by it. It probably cuts deep and I hope that it does, cause you work in an industry that glorifies violence. It's more your fault than it will ever be mine. Lord only knows how many crimes that you've influenced throughout your whole career, cause I've seen you kill people plenty of times. What do you
Violence is as American as apple pie. And I personally don't watch the type of films that he's talking about. I've never been an action movie buff. I don't like those very, very violent movies. Maybe the only violent movie I ever watched was The Godfather, which, was depicting a violent world. So that's understandable, but violence for the sake of violence, to blood and guts, to sell movie tickets, no, that's wrong.
It's gonna cause a shooting, a YouTube video of a gun review, or a Hollywood murder scene that seems so realistic it looks like it's from the news. So next time that you wanna point your finger with a stupid opinion and chime in with it, remember, it ain't me that they're trying to be like, dog, it's you that they're trying to mimic. I feel way more safe in a place where the people are legally armed. If something happens like a mass shooting, I have a way less chance of being lethally harmed. The criminal is gonna think twice if he knows everybody has a piece underneath their clothes. And Mayor Lightfoot will probably tell you different, but have you seen Chicago?
Yeah, I've seen Chicago. I have a couple daughters that live there, so I read the Chicago Tribune online. It's horrifying, the stories that come out of there, and a lot of times it's innocent children getting caught in the crossfire and other people. Gun violence is out of control in Chicago, but they also have some of the strictest gun laws in the country. So there's your proof right there that the gun laws really don't work. Criminals will get guns. If they're criminals, they don't care if they're illegal. It's only law-abiding people that will follow the law, not criminals. He mentioned Uvalde. A lot of questions in my mind about that whole situation, but especially how did this young unemployed loser come up with some very high-powered and expensive arms? I think we need to know a little more about it, but of course, with the FBI investigating, we never will. They still haven't figured out or told us what happened in Las Vegas a few years ago. A lot of questions with that one too.
And no, before you ask, I don't want to be like Canada either, and I don't want to be like Australia. I'm sick of everybody using them as a humanity meter. There's a reason that they can do whatever they want to their citizens, like fucking throw them in camps. And there's a reason that our government doesn't even try that shit, cause they know that they can't. If you don't think for one split second that if we didn't have our Second Amendment, the government wouldn't overstep its boundaries and make us lose shit even when we're against it, you're out of your mind.
If you lived through the last 2 years and you saw the lengths that our governments will go to compel supposedly free citizens to do what they want, then that should be a wake-up call for everybody. They're dismantling our basic freedoms. They're starting with the First Amendment. Our right of free speech is being censored. Our right to assemble and redress our grievances was being curtailed. And the backup to all of the rights in the First Amendment is the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. That's where the rubber hits the road. If you didn't have that, like he points out, other countries do not have a Second Amendment. And in many of those countries, the government has monopoly on lethal force. It's not a good situation. Australia being probably the worst, or Canada both, in terms of confiscation of basic freedoms and very little recourse by an unarmed citizenry.
Damn, where you stand or how or what you vote, that's dandy and fine if you trust Uncle Sam, but I for one fucking don't. And why would I? What have they done? Give me a reason for me to believe them. They wanna trade me a little security in exchange for a big ass piece of my freedom. They don't wanna take away guns cause they care about you and they wanna keep you safe at night. They wanna take away guns cause it's easy to control people if they don't have any way to fight.
Hey buddy, what your little AR-15 gonna do when the government comes to take it?
Well, Ukraine started handing out rifles to all of the citizens when the Russians invaded, so what about that? I thought it wouldn't help. I guarantee that it'd be better than nothing. I hope it never does, but if the day comes, I bet that you're gonna wish that you had something. This is the only country on earth where the people have real strength. And nowadays, with all the shit going on, it's the only thing that makes me feel safe. If there's anything that I've learned in the past couple years looking back at the pandemic, all of this shit that we have is fragile, and it could snap at any second.
Pretty much very fragile. The rights that we thought were enshrined in the Constitution never to be infringed. There are people who don't care about that. They want power. They want you to do what they tell you to do, and they don't want to hear any criticism, and they don't want to see any resistance. So I hope we've learned that in the last 2 years. And the way he's reacting right now, absolutely. It doesn't mean you hate the country. You hate what the country has become.
All of the politicians, I don't trust anything they say. Take the word gun out of gun control and that's all that it is at the end of the day. I don't give a fuck how crazy you think that I look or I sound when I say this shit, but our Second Amendment's the only thing that stands between us and a dictatorship. And as for the kids, I'm not a security expert, so I won't act like one. But I think that if we can send over $50 billion to Ukraine, we could surely spend that much, or more, or less, here in our own country to fortify our schools and make them more secure so that every kid can get an education safe and sound. Place several trained armed guards in every school across America. You know, real men who won't stand by for 45 minutes in the hallway while a shooting unfolds in front of their own eyes. And pay them well, too. There's veterans that need the work. Why not protect our kids the same way that we protect you? Politicians are protected by guns. Celebrities are protected by guns. Every important person that walks this earth is protected by a gun. But our kids, they're important. Just not as much as you.
Yeah, well, the obvious answer to why we don't do that, why we don't hire all those guards, is there's not enough opportunity for graft. If you send $50 billion to the Ukraine, it's kind of out of sight, and then you can steal the money quite easily. If you send it to the local school districts, there's some oversight. And besides that, hiring a bunch of security guards, those people, as he says, veterans, people with law enforcement experience, they tend to be more on the conservative side. They're competent. They'd have to be. That's not the type of people we want to give government jobs to. We want to give government jobs to the incompetent and the people that, have no motivation to do anything, and they can basically phone it in. So another great video from young Mr. Sampson. Let's hope he continues to come out even more frequently. 6 months was too long to wait. And let's hope that this message that, is probably not popular among his age group. People in their 20s, unfortunately, to a great degree, have been brainwashed to believe that guns are bad. A lot of other stuff are bad that really are good. So hopefully some of his cohort, some of his people in their 20s will see this message and understand it, help us regain our freedom that are in danger of being lost.